I think we're live. Oh, yes, we are. Hi. What's up, Hightower?
Hello, alive and well. Yes,
Yes.
springtime here in Austin, Texas, 90 degrees today, which scares the bejesus out of us because that means it'll be 100 degrees in probably in 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
and here comes summer just to crush us.
Yeah.
But
Indeed.
anyway, it is what it is, and it's beautiful at this time of year, and beautiful to be on the air with you and fellow travelers.
Yes, and the fellow travelers are popping in and dropping us some likes and some hearts. Oh, David Liberty says, "Hey, Hightower."
Hey,
So let's cheers first of all.
yes,
And any beverage will do, but let us cheers. Chink. Happy
ding.
hour.
I am sipping a wonderful, it's called fresh squeezed IPA from Deschutes Brewery, which is out in Bend, Oregon, out there on the Deschutes River.
Representing.
Wonderful brewery, wonderful folks out there, and they make a hell of a bunch of very, very good beers. But who doesn't these days? Of
I
course, you can't get into a bar to drink them, but
no,
nonetheless.
exactly. Well, I was just thinking about, we, so folks know, there, my cousin Elizabeth, hi. And she says, hey, Jim.
Hey,
Um,
Liz.
oh, David from before is tipping his bong to us. So well
All
done,
right.
sir. I salute you. But no, I was just thinking, so we have been working the last, year or so now, I think, close to a year, on a podcast, which it's called Hightower's American Rebels. And we've been traveling up until very recently all over the South, looking at and talking to groups that are actually changing the game and really doing the progressive of the people populist organizing that we talk about and support. Anyway, what this has to do with beer is that one time we were having a little get together in Durham, North Carolina, and our third person on the podcast, Jay Harris, our publisher, and I were tasked with bringing some beer to you. And we were in the store, and all we knew to do was look for the signs that said local, and if it was labeled IPA.
Yes, that's it. That's my
Ah,
criteria. It's a
and Jay
pretty,
is
pretty little
here.
bar, but
Yeah, exactly.
essential.
But you know what? We support you and validate you.
There you go.
Jay is here. Jay says, hiya. Hi, Jay. And Robert and Diana of Durham, the infamous, are also here. So, hi. Anyway, so let's kind of jump in. It's been an intense few weeks, eh?
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are things looking like for you down there in Austin? I mean, obviously you're chilling on your porch and drinking a nice beer, but how have things been feeling to you?
Well, we're in lockdown. Certainly Jay is there in San Francisco, and other people around the country are in severe lockdown, and we are too, pretty much. No travel out. Except for pharmaceuticals or food and essentials, grocery store food, and so it's bizarre basically.
Yeah.
You go out, there's no traffic, there's no people. It's kind of like I don't know, the neutron bomb has hit or something,
Yeah.
and in a way that's what it is. But the interesting thing is that the American people are overwhelmingly responding quite positively. You have your occasional jerks doing their best work uh, to to violate the community health needs, and then of course we have Washington violating the community health needs. That
Yeah.
the And in fact, I've been writing today on radio commentaries about what should we do to the pandemic profiteers. We've had war profiteers throughout our history, and I've gone back, Deanna, to a little bit of that history that is not widely reported, and that is that of course, assorted corrupt merchants and traders lined their pockets in our Revolutionary War time
Oh, no kidding.
by creating shortages and jacking up the prices, controlling the supply, and jacking up the prices on various goods that they sold not only to the government, to the army, but also to the public. But often feisty colonials rebelled in their own way and struck back at the gougers and the profiteers. And one example was in 1777 when a Boston merchant was found to be creating an artificial shortage of sugar and coffee by controlling the imports, and then using that as an excuse to jack up the prices to the local folks. So a band of enraged women in Beantown, Boston, took things into their own hands. They tracked the guy down, beat him up, and took his stock. Liberation of coffee and sugar, and that's the kind of rebellion that I think we've got to have again, because here they come, the corporate interests in Washington, rushing to the front of the line, shoving workers out of the way, shoving cities out, shoving poor people, shoving students, shoving farmers, shoving everybody out of the way, saying us first.
Yeah.
We've got to be bailed out and set up a special $500 billion, $500 billion slush fund for themselves to be taken care of. Everybody else be damned. We are first and you are last. It's pretty much the message. Now, luckily, we had enough Democrats and a tiny handful of Republicans to join in the fight up there to say no. And Elizabeth Warren was leader in that. Sherrod Brown out of Ohio, another leader in it,
Yes.
and have taken them on and beaten them back, but not entirely back. Of course, they're still going to get theirs first. It will be less than they were anticipating getting, and it won't be so easy for them. So at least there was a little growth of spine in the populist cause there in Washington to rebel against it. But it's not done, and we've got to be not only vigilant about this, but we've got to have that spirit of those women in 1777 to go right in the face of these people and perhaps beat them up, at least politically.
Well, a Bostonian just commented and said Elizabeth just said, "Don't deprive a Bostonian of their coffee." You just don't. That's not something that you mess with. Not then, not now, not ever.
Yep.
It's interesting in talking about the import restrictions. It's not something that we talked about when we were preparing for today, but I was listening to the radio and
wait a minute, we prepared for today?
Yeah. No, remember that time that we talked for 2 minutes and been like, you want to do it? Yep. Okay.
Done. We're prepared.
Done.
Turn it loose.
Ooh, we got new people joining us from Santa Rosa and from Louisville. Hey, Louisville. What?
Louisville. Yeah.
Anyway, there was a guy talking about how what would happen with kind of potential food shortages as a result of coronavirus, and he was saying that the staples, wheat, rice, stuff like that are probably okay because they're machine plucked, but the vegetable crops are not. They're plucked by, they're picked by humans and often poor exploited workers and all of this stuff. And one thing that I learned, talking about a recent history, was that countries around the world hoarded their own vegetable supplies in the 2000 and 2008 financial crisis, and made everything skyrocket. There were vast shortages all around the world of a bunch of different kind of vegetables, and that kind of freaked me out. He was like, we need like worldwide provisions saying like free flow of food, and you would think that would make sense, that we would all agree that free flowing food should be a good idea, but no.
Particularly, Deanna, local food and farmers markets are heroes here in Texas and elsewhere around the country. and I go to the Boggy Creek farm stand every Saturday, and did this last Saturday. I go to the downtown farmers market run by the Sustainable Food Center. So I go to a number of these local markets, and they are thriving. Of course, they have to, impose, the 6 foot perimeter, and gloves to handle. You can't just pick your own tomatoes. The purveyor has to them to you and that sort of stuff. So things are taking place, but it still works, and people trust it, and they're turning out in big numbers to these farmers markets because it is food you can trust. It's been picked that day, or at best the day before, and brought right to you. So that kind of change, and we've got the listener from tuning in from Louisville, the home of Wendell Berry, the great champion local food and family farms and all that. So this is a long history of agriculture that is all about culture, and that's coming to the fore again today in the midst of this crisis that we're all in the middle of.
Yeah, that's such a huge point, and that's something that I know you talk about often is in our work is the culture part of agriculture, and why agribusiness is as craptastic as it is. Ugh.
Yeah, right.
And so you were telling me too that you were writing about these potential corporate bailouts for that may be part of this grand stimulus package, where we get a measly few bucks thrown at us, and corporations get to do stock buybacks. What kind of thoughts and feels you have about that?
Well, it's shameful, and they are shameless. Boeing, which is the developer of the death plane that killed 2 plane loads of people already, and then tried to cover it up and to deny that they had any role in it. Before they're already a disgraced corporation, and before anybody in the United States could pronounce coronavirus, their lobbyists were rushing in Washington and asking for a $60 billion bailout for them. Not of course, they put it in terms of the workers. We've got to help our workers.
And they never do. They just never do.
Well, no, do they not do? But they made sure that in the provision of the bailout that was first pushed by the Republicans, Mitch McConnell and them in Washington, that they had no obligation to the workers. They could get their billions of dollars. They could fire workers. They could deny benefits to workers, including paid sick leave. And et cetera. They had no obligation whatsoever to the public to get $60 billion of the public's money. So
you know what this reminds me of? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it reminds me, and I'm looking for it on my phone now. Yeah, this guy on Twitter, Lucas Reicheneck, said, funny how all the consumers and workers staying home brings the economy to its knees, and the job creators aren't keeping things running with their amazing bootstraps. It's almost as if the people at the bottom are the people who are creating the wealth.
Yes. And by the way, bootstraps, it is impossible to pick yourself up by a bootstrap. I have worn boots. You can pull on the bootstrap all day, and it's not going to pick you up. So that's just among the many shibboleths that are out there. But here we come. Also, because the Trump administration has said that one of our priorities is to bail out the hospitality industry, including resorts and hotels and casinos. And if that sounds familiar, that's because that's the business, of course, that the Trumps are in. Yeah. So are their luxury properties going to be in line to get these bailouts? Well, Trump is a guy who amassed his fortune on taxpayer subsidies. Yeah. So he is not about to pass up this opportunity to hit a big one. And he even petulantly has asserted that he's entitled to this emolument because he has made such sacrifice to be president. He has given up business opportunities. He did not take his presidential salary, for example. He says, I did it and nobody cared. Nobody said thank you. So screw you, says Donald Trump. I'm going to get mine. And good luck in getting
Oh
yours.
my God, I almost had wine come out my nose. And I was just sitting here thinking, it's like we're 15 minutes in and I'm one glass down already. Like, this is going to be, I don't know, if we maybe need to make this like into a drinking game where, every time we say bailout or every time we say Trump, we drink. But then that would make it probably worse.
That would that works.
Luckily, we got some new folks in. Greetings. Robin says, greetings from teeny tiny Hurdle, Wisconsin. Hurdle,
Hmm?
Wisconsin. Hurdle? I don't know. Sonoma County is here. Jim says that he visited the farmer's market on Clement Street on Sunday. I don't know where Clement Street is, but
I don't either, but
it sounds
what
great.
county? There it is. Okay, good.
Oh my gosh, I honestly did not put together the whole hospitality thing. Just like thinking about my friends who are, service workers
Yeah.
and in those industries. And, a lot of people were focusing on the airlines and stock buybacks. And it literally didn't occur to me until now that, oh my gosh, this is Trump's entire Jang. Oh, Jay tells us that Clement Street is in San Francisco. Thanks, Jay. This is why you are in charge of the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we'll just sit here and chat.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things too that go
Yeah,
ahead.
the hospitality workers are. I mean, it's just an immediate shock to them. They're out of work, no income, no health care, no paid leave. All that out on the street. Now the local restaurant owners and bars are going all out here, and I've seen stories elsewhere. I know about them here because I'm among them, but they're going all out to try to share the burden
Yep.
and do what they can. And a lot of people are, they're buying $100 gift cards and that sort of thing to
Yep.
put some money forward. Cleaning services, other people's industries are really hard hit by this, and we're only going to save ourselves, really,
That is a thing.
because the powers that be are out for themselves, and they'll get to us down the road,
Well,
way down the road.
yeah, and
when we're
we've been
excited.
talking about some of the optimistic things. That's the whole point of this podcast that we have coming out later this spring. At some when we figure out how to travel and produce a podcast that's based on traveling, whatever, we'll figure it out. It's fine. Jay is our producer, and he's really smart.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we have wanted to really focus on with this work are the positive stories of the people who are taking things back and who are organizing and who are winning. And I mean, I may be looking at parts of this with rose-colored glasses or being super naive or something, but I also see in this horror, this utter horror that we're about to really start to deeply experience. I'm based in New York, and it's about to get real here. That there's real hope that we might be able to actually start to execute and build some of the infrastructure that we've been talking about and striving for and really pushing for. It's like, if you look at the things that people are demanding right now, universal health care, better, all the kinds of better infrastructure, like all of these, telecommunications infrastructure. It's basically everything that progressives have been fighting for the last, 4 decades at least, if not longer. So maybe we have a chance. I'm not sure about the federal level, but I don't know. What are you sensing? What are you reading?
Even fundamental restructuring of the economy. I mean, this shows us that in fact we are all in this together, in terms of the pain of it, and that to be in it together as a solution means things like a cooperative model instead of a corporate model of organizing the economy. So I can see a lot more of that coming out of it, and worker ownership, and a sharing of power. Not just you get a salary, you get what we're willing to give you, but an actual sharing of power to determine what it is that who is going to get what.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big fundamental change that I think might could come out of this. I won't say it will come out. That's dependent on us. But this is a time, not immediately because we got to take care of immediate needs, but very shortly. For us as grassroots people, the populist activists, to step forward and say this won't do. We can't have another one of these, and we can't just go back to the same old, because that's running roughshod over us. A farmer friend of mine told me once that status quo is Latin for the mess we're in. So we can't stick with the status quo. We got to try something different, and something that has been tried throughout the world and quite successfully. Things like cooperatives.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Every once in a while, you've got a line there that I have not heard before, and I have been working with you for 15 years, so that always catches me off guard.
Right. Well, don't want to be too predictable.
No, I thought we were heading to 6 Bs there. I thought we were heading. No, status quo. We went to status quo. All right.
Right. So,
who knew?
Right.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Even just locally, what you see around, just in neighborhoods, and this is one way for all of the kind of damning things that technology has done and is continuing to do to us instead of with us or for us. Technology has also facilitated a lot of immediate and fantastic kind of organizing. I actually run errands now for neighbors who are high risk, and for their one of my neighbors asked me very sheepishly if I can get her some candy at the store just while I'm out taking my dog out, and I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, everybody needs comfort, and the time like this, like. She hasn't left her house since March 10th. Yes, I will get you candy,
Yes, right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Hey, but
I'm glad you mentioned that, Deanna, because I think we're all experiencing some of that. I've got a neighbor just right over here who's making bread for people. She's a minister of a Methodist church next door, and passing out bread, literally fishes and loaves, I guess, but not the fishes, but the loaves, at least. Another neighbor just up the street left a handwritten note, not just on my porch, but others, saying, I'm okay, and if you need anything, I'm willing to help go get it,
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is special.
Yeah, and this is when we're not quite at the point where we've all turned into zombies and it's going to be Walking Dead, but until we get to that point, I'm pretty hopeful about how people are interacting. And hilariously here in Brooklyn, like, I live in a neighborhood in Brooklyn that is very like working and middle class. Everybody knows everybody else. I've lived here 12 years, and so you get a lot of mixed ethnicities and nationalities and mixed kind of everything. And so people are naturally a little bit more friendly here than in other parts of the city, but it's even a little weird now because everybody's smiling at each other on the street. And I'm like, did I step into an alternate timeline where New Yorkers smile now? Where some of the kinds of people that actually do that. But speaking of high risk people, I was wondering, did you hear what what's his face, Lieutenant Governor there, Abbott, said today?
The governor? No, I did not.
I thought, yeah, okay. So Abbott says today, when questioned about high risk people, the elderly, people with compromised immune systems, and this big push that started yesterday and today to reopen the economy by Easter, reopen the economy.
Yeah,
like
right,
it's a
right.
door.
Yeah.
You just turn the sign over. Just kidding. Come on in.
Bring some coronavirus with you.
Yeah. And he said that that grandparents have to be willing to die to save the economy.
There you go. All right.
If I got that wrong, somebody correct me in the comments. But
Greg Abbott, the governor, an absolute sleaze, taking corporate money and doing corporate favors, which has become common in America, I know, but we have a special affinity for it here in Texas, and a long practice of having done it. So quite refined. So that's always good to hear, an ethical message from your governor.
I was gonna
Granny,
say, yeah,
die.
yeah, die.
We need to
Oh
move
no,
on.
I'm sorry, it wasn't Abbott. It was Dan Patrick. Thank you, Austin. So,
Oh yeah, he's the lieutenant governor.
yes.
Any bigger sleeves and a right-wing nutball to boot. Yeah, so
Oh, okay. So
that's good to
that's
hear from Dan.
lines right
Yeah,
up then. Just lines right up with
yeah. He's
Grandma.
next in. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I know you don't have any grandchildren, but like, grandnephews, grandnieces, are you willing to take one for the team, Hightower? Are you really,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
no.
willing to do my. But
Holy cow. But yeah, some of this stuff has been really amazing. And
do any of our tuner inners have anything to say, or questions to ask, or observations, or jokes, or
yes. Uncle Robert
insights?
says, let's start a movement that would bar corporations that receive federal bailout money from lobbying for at least 2 years.
Mm, absolutely. And while we're at it, let us outlaw finally members of Congress being able to serve on corporate boards and being able to lobby after they get out of office. That's a deep part of the corruption that's taken place in Washington.
Jim asks if we're familiar with the workers-owned business in Spain started by Arizmendi. Do we know this?
In,
I don't know.
no,
Nope. We don't know, Jim.
specifically.
Tell us about it in the comments. I will keep reading. Oh yeah, David says that Dan Patrick can be first in line at the morgue if he wants.
There you go. Yeah, you'll be in charge of embalming. Oh
So,
Lord.
oh man. So yeah, we're seeing. Austin wants to know what would the late great Steve Frumholtz say about all this that's happening right now.
He would have something hilarious to say about it. Steve Fromholz, great musician out of Bosque County, Texas, rural county just north of here, and wrote all kinds of wonderful songs and sang wonderful songs, and then was in movies as well, and then moved out to a ranch out in West Texas where he was quite happy, and went hunting and managed to try to climb through a barbed wire fence and shot himself. So Steve is no longer with us, but he would have found great humor in that actually.
Yeah.
'Cause he was hilarious in my first campaign for statewide office here in Texas in the it was in the 1970s. The campaign was 1980, but nonetheless we were running together. So we went on the road, and we'd stop at a courthouse, and Steve would sing a couple of songs, and I'd give a hot lick of a speech for 15, 20 minutes or so, and then we'd talk with the people and sip a coffee if it was before noon, and a beer if it was afternoon, and then move on down the road to the next
Oh,
courthouse.
nice.
So it was great fun to campaign with him, and he had some wonderful, just a wonderful human being.
Oh, yeah. Another person wants to talk more about worker-owned cooperatives. We actually have talked to a bunch in our travels, and of. I mean, especially in Austin, there's a ton, but there's tell us a little bit more about what that model means and why this resonates so deeply against the kind of corporate model of capitalism and exploitation. As
Well, it's
I'm like, I revealed the answer. It's not exploitation.
well, cooperatives have been around a long, long time. The cooperative movement, the modern version of the cooperative movement, began in England, and in the 1700s, I think so, and then has been the populist movement in the United States right after the Civil War. Was based. Its economic program was based entirely on what they call the the cooperative commonwealth, and that farmers should and workers in factories should not be dependent on banks to get financing. Should not be dependent on railroads to move their commodities and goods to market. That they should own them themselves and control them.
Ooh, we got a
And
lot of
so
hearts for that one. Yeah. Thanks,
yeah,
y'all.
and that was really quite a successful movement. Of course, the banks with the politicians and the railroads combined in the late 1800s, the robber barons, to crush that movement, but not to crush the idea of it. And it is resurfacing today in a very large way all across America. And ironically, you can go back into the robber baron period, and a guy named Leland Stanford, that you history buffs will remember the name. Leland Stanford was the robber baron who built the railroads using Chinese, essentially slave labor, and was there at driving the Golden Spike that linked the Continental Railroad, the Transcontinental Railroad, in Promontory, Utah, back in 18 whatever that was. And Leland Stanford, a robber baron, late in his life, came to the conclusion that cooperatives were the future and far better than corporations. He said that a cooperative can do everything a corporation can do, but it will serve society and the common good better. Because it will be little d democratic. It will be controlled by a larger number of people than a little corporate self-serving board is going to do. And so Leland Stanford funded Stanford University,
Oh,
California.
that guy.
Yes, and he founded it to teach the cooperative principles and to teach how to manage, how to form them, how to run, how to spread them. So his whole thing came down to cooperatives. Unfortunately, within 2 years of funding it, 2 or 3 years, he died. And
Damn it. Why do these stories all end in death?
and his apparently his widow, I'm not sure of this, but that the authorities at Stanford University in its fledgling days then abruptly shifted to a corporate model. And today there is not even a single course on cooperatives taught at Stanford University, which Leland Stanford created to teach cooperatives. So we've got to get back to that model, and people are not waiting on some big institution to do it or a government to do it. They're doing it themselves. I am a member of a food cooperative here in Austin, Texas. I'm a member also of the first worker cooperatively owned worker managed brew pub in America, and it is a fabulous place. And you don't tip there because they pay all their workers a minimum a living wage, and have benefits and are totally worker owned there. So it's a model that not only works, but they're now spreading that to other. I'm also on a radio station here, Co-op Radio, KOOP.
Yes.
It's cooperatively owned. No, the DJs and et cetera that are on that show don't get on that station. They're volunteers. They do it because of the music or because of the message they want to deliver. So it really is a free, independent radio, journalism, media. So these are models that exist in your town too. And we did in our Hightower Lowdown newsletter recently.
Which you can join, you can sign up for in the bottom of the screen where it says join us, hightowerlowdown.org/email.
Please do. Please do. So a few months ago, we did an issue on rural electric cooperatives. These were created during the Depression by Franklin Roosevelt and team because the electric utilities that were lighting up the cities and et cetera, had no interest in the rural areas because they couldn't make enough profit to run the lines out there. So Roosevelt created the opportunity for people in the rural areas to form their own electric utility and own them and run them. And they did, and that's the rural electric cooperatives. They since lost their sense of mission, most of them, but now they're coming back because
Yes.
people discovering, wait a minute, if I buy electricity from this co-op, then I'm a member, which means I get to vote on the board of directors,
Yep,
and I might just run for the board of
that's
directors,
right.
and then become the manager of this co-op, and change its policies to back to benefiting the people. So these are great institutions of little d democracy
Yeah.
for us.
And if folks want to tell us about their favorite co-ops where they live, we would love to hear about them. Our friend Jim told us it's a long comment here, so I'm going to share it with you later. But all about this Spanish worker-owned co-op that he taught up. He said what started as one firm and roughly 25 people in 1956 is now a major international business with a workforce of over 34,000.
Yeah,
It can
Mondragon,
work.
Spain, is fabulous, and it's a great model. It works.
Yeah. Um, I I am I have been a member of the Park Slope Food Co-op, which is a notoriously sort of slightly hilarious worker-owned co-op for food. But I honestly, the other part of that too was because it wasn't there for profit. It was there in this case. It was a nonprofit. I have never bought cheaper food in my life than at this food co-op because it was like carrots were like 39 cents a bag or something. Like, I mean, it was just like mind blowing. It was uh yeah, it was crazy. Our very own Melody is here. Hi, Melody. If you ever call the Austin office and you hear a delightful voice greet you, that is our very own Melody, who is here in the comments. Um, there was
Get back to work, Melody.
no,
Don't be wasting time.
yeah, something I don't think that I've ever heard you say in 15 years.
Yeah,
This is how I know you're kidding. You know.
yeah, right.
Um, there was something about worker-owned co-ops, and I totally lost it. I was gonna ask something else. Jay has posted. Jay, who is a Stanford alum now, our very own
Yes,
podcast producer
yes.
and publisher, just posted a link to more about Leland Stanford and co-ops himself. But what's really interesting is I have talked to. As we've talked about many times, my dad is notoriously very conservative, but certain things will kind of like tweak his interest a little tiny bit. And when I told him about the food co-op that I belonged to, and he said, "What do you have to do?" And I said, "Well, you give them a deposit. That's an investment, and then you work 1 3-hour shift a month to be part of it." And I was like, "And for that, I get to buy 39-cent bags of carrots." And he was like, "I do that." And I was like, "Knew it. I'm gonna
That's
make a
right.
commie out of you yet, Pop." Um, but yeah, we see all kinds of this kind of the mutual aid, the mutual aid and cooperative movement. I think really in this moment of what we're dealing with, if we're looking out for mutual interest and recognize the fact that shockingly our fates are intertwined. Uh,
Mm.
Wacky idea for many. Melody just jumped in, and when you told her to get back to work, she says, "So what you're saying is I need to grab another beer."
Yeah, that's it.
Yes,
Right.
that's exactly what he's saying. Uh,
We have to nurture our employees. Beer, ample beer.
what else is on your mind? Like, what else has you've been kind of seeing, hearing, frustrated, excited about? You got some food recipes that you've been
Well, I do.
trying
I've got,
out.
I have chorizo sitting out there that's going to go into probably some eggs or something or other here momentarily as I run out of beer and run out of power on my telephone here and dwindle down, so to speak. As the sun sets in the west, so do I. But but
Oh,
yeah, I
I've
mean,
got
one.
we've got
Well,
a
I'll give you one thing,
okay.
and that is where the hell is Joe Biden? If he's going to be the nominee of the other major political party, where is he?
Yeah.
Why isn't he in the lead? I've never been a Cuomo fan, but he's done a good job in this
Have
mess
you seen,
that
have you
we're
heard
in.
this whole
And
thing?
Gavin Newsom out
Yeah.
in California, the governor there, Sherrod Brown in Ohio. We got people who are standing up, but where I don't know, is Biden napping? Get, find Joe. All right, go everybody. Let's try to do this. Let's try to. Where's Joe?
Where's Joe? Oh,
Oh, America is
I'm
calling.
calling you now. Um, we yeah, there's this phenomenon happening here in New York with people people who are, let's say, people who are attracted to men who never liked Cuomo before are suddenly finding themselves having crushes on Cuomo and being very confused about it. Like, why
I
do I
wouldn't go
like
that
him?
far, but
No, no, that's what I'm saying. You're not that kind of guy. But
all
it
right,
is
still.
this phenomenon for a bunch of us where we're like, uh, uh,
Like him now? Yeah.
why do I
Well, good
like
for
him
him.
so much?
Good for him. Somebody's got to stand up. So
Yeah,
I like.
absolutely. Arati asks, what can individuals do to prevent these corporate bailouts? What advice do we have for them?
Well, we got to do like those Beantown women in 1777. We got to track them down and beat them up politically,
Yeah,
and expose them, call them out.
yeah,
For the greed heads that they are, the American people are not on their side. The American people are on the side of themselves and the people
yeah,
and the common good. The notion that we are, in fact, all in this together.
yep.
As my old Texas daddy used to say, everybody does better when everybody does better. And now we're saying that
That's on a
everybody does
sticker.
worse when everybody does worse. So that is a powerful political message as well as social, economic, and health message. So we got to take that to heart and take that into politics. And we've got an election coming up, and whatever you think about the presidential run, there are people running for the Senate and the Congress and your state legislature and
And
your
that's where this
county commission
matters.
seat,
Yep.
and et cetera. And that's and start taking over those positions. I'm a part of our revolution movement that came out of the Bernie Sanders campaign, and we're trying to do that here in Texas and all across the country, and with great success, winning about 55-60% of the races that we're in, with people who have no money, no name recognition, no previous political experience, but have ideas, have the ability to rally people to do something together that is big politically, and to go right at the bastards and win.
Yep.
And having won, then to begin to develop the policies that actually serve the people,
Yep.
rather than the rich few.
And agitate, agitate, agitate. Do not stop on those phones of calling your representatives and calling your senators right now about what's happening with these bailouts in Washington. It actually does matter. I, as a slightly burned out organizer, sometimes feel like, oh, really? Are we calling again? But
Yeah.
it actually does matter, and whatever you
And
can
right
do.
now, particularly,
Yeah.
because they are so vulnerable
Yes. Oh,
with
yeah, they are.
this bailout of the elite few, and not just the bailout of the elite few, but to put them at the head of the line,
Yeah.
as though they have a special claim.
Well, I did see another tweet that went by that said the fastest way to get a COVID-19 test is to sneeze on a rich person.
There you are. Yeah. Nature has its own way.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that we ran the gamut here. We're hitting close to time, and I know your battery on your phone is running down. First of all, I just also want to say that you did this on your own. We had no physical assistance there this time, and that was amazing. It's the best one we've ever done.
Well, the physical assistance was yours from Brooklyn to Austin, Texas, directing me to punch this button or that button.
Yes.
And here we are.
And
it works.
here
So,
we
but
are.
yes.
So we're going to be planning on doing more of these. If y'all have topics you want us to discuss, if you have ideas of who we should have on, because we're going to start having guests on and get in touch with us, you can do that through Facebook. You can email us on Twitter as well. Jim Hightower, he's always there, and we're always reading and looking. But Hightower, it was great hanging out with you and having a little happy hour with you.
A joy for me.
Empty toast.
Terrific. Yes, here we go.
Boom.
Have a fresh squeeze.
Fresh squeeze. Boom. Yeah, I've got a different kind of fresh squeeze.
Yes, you do.
And we will see you all soon. Hey, thanks everyone for joining us. Parting words, Hightower. You want to give any love and shout out?
No, yeah, just keep going. It's up to us.
Amazing. All right, y'all. Thanks, and we'll talk to you soon. And have a great rest of your day and evening. Bye.
Adios.